And of course, every Friday night, the reason I haven't been here for the last 3 Fridays is either being on retreat myself or teaching a meditation retreat, which is always a great joy to be able to do that, to take time out. Because as I teach others, that's how I practice myself. So after the new year, I was quite tired, just busyness. And also, I used to tell, especially the monks I live with, I used to say to them, I'm getting old. But they were such nice monks. They said, no, you're not getting old, Ajahn Brahm. What a wonderful thing to say to you, because I'm almost 70 now. He said, you're not getting old, Ajahn Brahm. You're already old. Thank you so much. But it's nice to, anyhow, just have a time for yourself, out of kindness to yourself, compassion to yourself. Even I have to do that so that I can come out of retreat and teach a retreat to you and give 100% to everybody and still have much more left. It's one of the problems with life that you find that people get very tired. Life is not easy, even for a monk. But one of the advantages nuns and monks have is that we really know how to meditate. We have those facilities, our little monasteries, where we can go and find a nice quiet place and just sit down or just have a walk and be peaceful. And sometimes you come to a place like this and we do a lot of talking, a lot of teaching. There's books, there's videos to read. No, that's not right, is it? Videos to look at, books to read. But a lot of the time, all one really requires when one comes to a place like this is just to be here and soak up the acceptance, the non-judgment, the delight of just being here. And I've told many people one story in particular, which I remember, that over in Bodhinyana Monastery, over in Serpentine, I was just sitting there after lunch receiving guests. And this gentleman came up I've never seen before, but I remembered his voice for a strange reason. And I find out after he told me that he was the local building surveyor at the Shire of Serpentine, Jarradale. So every building which we applied for permission for, he will be the one who looks at it and checks that it fulfills all of the regulations and ticks it off. And I asked him, well, what are you doing here? And he said that he's not come to check up or anything because this was the last day at work in that job. He was retiring that afternoon. But he said he came here to thank me for the car park. I thought it was really weird. Thanking me for the car park? What are you talking about? And he said to me that he wasn't a Buddhist, he didn't know how to meditate, but every time he got stressed out at work, he simply got into his car, drove to the monastery in Serpentine and parked his car in the car park and just sat there maybe 15 minutes or half an hour. And then afterwards, he felt so much better, he went back to work. And the reason I loved it, I said, yeah, I can understand that. Because sometimes all he needed was just a place of peace. So that peace, which I hope many of you felt in your meditation, you find it difficult to feel that at work, in a very busy job, where all these big builders were harassing him to get those plans signed off in time. And he was trying his best, like many people, we all try our best to do the finest job we can, but nevertheless, it's so tiring sometimes. And because of that, getting stressed out, what do you mean by the stress? Just very exhausted. And just coming to a quiet place and just sitting still and not being bothered by anybody. As if I remember these stories when I was a young monk. People would come to monasteries in Thailand not to get some advice from anybody. They'll just go and sit there in the grounds, especially if it was a peaceful monastery. Sit there in the grounds, relax, and just get the energy from the place. Once you got that energy from the place, your body, your mind feels so much better. Because sometimes you come sometimes to Bodhinyana Monastery once a week or once a fortnight, and I tell you the same old things every week. But that's not just what you come to a monastery for, to a temple like this for. You come here because there's something else which is on offer here. Acceptance, peace, kindness, just joy, just someone to smile at you and to accept you for who you are. Because somehow or another, just one of the most essential parts of our Buddhism is the kindness, compassion which we just give, expecting nothing back in return. Just give, serve. Because in that service, if it really works, you can feel it. You feel that no one is asking anything from you at all. You are perfectly accepted. Yeah, we don't have sort of, who can come into this hall? Who can become a Buddhist? And I say anyone can become a Buddhist. That's a sign of how desperate we are for numbers. Of course, it's not desperation, though we've got plenty of people come here. But sometimes that I really feel for people, who look differently, or who act differently, or who inside are having a lot of stress and turmoil in their lives. So actually their brain is different. And for those of you who know my upbringing, the reason why I feel an extra bit of empathy to make the place available to as many people as possible, that was because of that time when I had a few Christian friends. I was already a Buddhist when I was at university. And those two Christian friends, we had some wonderful arguments because we were really just wanting to find out the truth of things. And, we weren't afraid of asking tough questions. But I realized that, truth, religion, spirituality, it's not just about asking questions and finding out answers to difficult problems of life. It's more than that. It is the kindness and compassion. So what happened, these two friends, they just mentioned in passing, they were volunteering to do some social work at the local hospital for people who had emotional problems. And one of those units was for those people with Down syndrome. And this was a unit were for occupational therapy for those with Down syndrome. And my two Christian friends were going to volunteer one afternoon a week. And when I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, I can't let my Christian friends beat me, the Buddhist. And that's all it was, just ego, pride, flying the flag for Buddhism. If you can do it, I can do it better. Totally. It's like when you're young, you try and just outperform your friends. It was something which I noticed, but I really didn't like. To this day, I always look back upon those times we did exams, the exams you have to do at school. That never made sense to me. My best friend was sitting next to me. He didn't know the answer, and I was trying to help him. And to me, that was compassion. It's what I'm supposed to do as a Buddhist. The teacher said that's cheating. It's not cheating, it's compassion, sir. Because in real life, that's what you do. If it's in an office, if it's in Parliament, if it's anywhere, we help each other. Why is it that at schools we're not allowed to help when it's an exam? There's something very wrong with that. But anyway, it was nice, very wonderful to have that opportunity to serve and help. In this case, it was Down syndrome people. And of course, I started that off thinking how superior, how wiser I was, how more clever I was. But then, of course, it was a wonderful opportunity, because as soon as I went into that place, it opened up my eyes that these were people who, quite frankly, were far more emotionally advanced than I was. And that was, as I say in the time, blew my mind. And the classic tale of that was when I'd just broken up with my girlfriend the night before. Now, I wasn't a monk at this time. The student. And just, no one knew that. These things you keep personal. But then one of these Down syndrome friends, they came running towards me, and I will never forget this, running towards me and giving me a big hug. Really, quite a big hug. Now, please understand, I was English. That's not what you do in England, hugging people in public. But it was with such kindness, compassion, that I just really melted. And he said to me, "What's wrong? How on earth did you know that?" And he knew there was some emotional problem in me. He's sensitive enough to pick that up straight away. Now, how many of you, when you're in emotional distress, you hide it? Of course you do. But how many people can see through all your defenses, pick it up straight away, and give you a real big hug? Not many people can do that. But some people, and they're emotionally very, very sensitive, advanced, they can do that so well. It's a great shame these days we're not allowed to hug each other. Even yesterday, this lady, I did another funeral yesterday, and she really liked what I said. So I said, "Can I give you a hug?" Not supposed to, can't. So we shook hands or something. Even that was pushing my luck as a Buddhist monk. But you can see just how wonderful it was to be able to serve and help somebody and go past those defenses. So I learned so much from that time about the emotional strengths. And of course that's something which is very hard to put into words. How you feel when you come into a place like this. And if you feel accepted, if you feel you can relax, there's one place in the world where people aren't judging you. On that last retreat which I gave, which quite a few of you were there, I can see you, coming again. But sometimes I told you that we don't give you grades at the end of a retreat. But maybe I should change that and give grades at the end of a retreat. Those people who meditated really, really well. Those people who kept their noble silence, which means not talking. Those people who meditated a lot, got up early in the morning. Should I give you a grade? A, B, C, D, E, and F, like they do in school. But then, of course, you know what those grades mean, because I renamed them, re-explained them. If you're at school and you get A, that stands for arrogant. If you get an F, that stands for fantastic. E stands for excellent. B stands for what does B stand for? Not brilliant, that's low. B is basic. So in other words, it changes down and just people to accept it rather than having, what it's like trying to live up to some people's grades and expectations. That really makes you more tense. It's one of those things, you are who you are, and after a while, people see who you are, and there's so much amazing beauty and wonder in all the people you see. That's one of the things which is difficult to teach on a retreat. The people are fine. They're beautiful, they're wonderful, there's nothing wrong with them. sometimes that people hear that, then no, Ajahn Brahm, you don't know me. If you knew me. But of course, as a monk, you do know much more than other people give you credit for. And sometimes you look into a human being, and inside of them is an incredible beauty and wonder and wonderful stuff. And why is it that people just judge each other? Oops, bang. Okay, it's nice down there. No, I can stay down there. You know I don't like clocks. Again, clock's another prison we live in. No, we have to finish at a certain time, we have to start at a certain time, we have to meditate for a certain time. I don't know about you, but if those of you who were meditating just now, sometimes the meditation is so peaceful, it's so nice. You don't want to come out of the meditation. That's why I have to open my eyes every now and again. Is it gone past time? So I can actually finish on time. If I was by myself, you're just having a good time, you carry on meditating. That's one of the reasons why also when Ajahn Chah was my teacher, I'm just going off on tangents here, but when Ajahn Chah was my teacher, and sometimes we would sit together, sometimes we'd be sitting there, I'm sure it was over an hour. It must have been over an hour. I didn't have a clock at the time, and my legs were really hurting. So you know what I thought of doing? I told the monks this, and it's true, this is what I thought, but I never had the guts to do it. To get what they call like a slingshot. And practice in the forest until I was a really good shot. And then when the meditation was happening, I just opened my eyes and I'd sling and hit the bell, gong. Oh, it's time to come out of meditation. You know what it's like sometimes? You're having a really difficult time. And you just know, it can't be just, it must be more than half an hour. Ring the gong. And other times, you know, it's just, oh, you're having such a beautiful, peaceful meditation. Everything is just so nice and joyful. And please, all these great insights are coming. Having one rub gong. Imagine that was the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, just about to get enlightened, and so I went gong. Shut up. Thank you. So sometimes like being controlled, whether it's by time or gongs. I don't think I explained this to you, that I did mention that many people went on this retreat and they kept noble silence. But I never told you what noble silence was. You know what noble silence means? Sometimes people who meditate traditions, they think noble silence means not speaking. That's not the meaning of noble silence. Noble silence means no bells. No bell silence. Oh, come on, give me a break. And those people who really understand the true noble silence and keep it, then some of them actually, they do win the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, grown away. But it's true. When you're really afraid of how many minutes are left, or it can't be the right time, of course that's more things to put you in a prison, more things to stress you out. So that's one of the reasons why that in monasteries like Bodhinyana Monastery in here, retreats, no bells. At least minimum bells. The only bell which we really have, I've got to admit this, in Bodhinyana other retreats, there's only 2 bells which people follow, they have to follow. That's breakfast and lunch. That's true. Other than that, because when you relax and you have emotional wisdom, like those beings who had Down syndrome, you learn so much from them. They learn how to relax and be as best they were able to. And when they could relax and just be, there are times when you're tired, there are times when you're energized, there are times when you're so peaceful, there are times when you're really just on the top of your game. And those are times you perform. Even just today I was telling this to Ajahn Brahm, just who was here earlier, that I had to write a very difficult letter. This is about a book which was published. And this morning I was a little bit tired, and so when I was trying to write that letter, have you ever had that experience? You're on the computer, you're trying to write a letter, it just doesn't come out. You write it, that doesn't seem good, that doesn't seem good, that doesn't seem good. You're wasting so much time. And again, just as I taught many of you, if you're in the office, at work, you got some report to write, some letter to write, some really sensitive letter to write, and it doesn't come out, then stop. And go and meditate. That's exactly what I did. Went off to meditate, took a shower, went back to that computer, and a beautiful letter came out. And I always see that this is how life works. For innovation and creativity, forcing yourself and being a prisoner just makes you so tense and stressed. Of course you can't perform well. And even, I would just, Dennis was mentioning poor old, not poor old, because he was a very wonderful man, Hugh Sykes, who did a funeral for him this afternoon. Even he was the owner of this draft of my first book, Open the Door of Your Heart, which I wrote. And I love telling the story of how that happened. It just shows you just how emotional wisdom becomes so powerful rather than just thinking and ideas. And the story of that book was having been teaching many years, and how all these stories which I tell, that some of these stories are very powerful. And one of these ladies who had a very terrible divorce, and she said, look, you really do need to publish those stories, to give them a wider, a broader reach, not just it's actually in the Armadale group, but for the whole of Perth, the East Coast and other countries of the world. You have to do this, Ajahn Brahm. It's unfair you keep this great wisdom just for a few people. You know my reply? I'm too busy. Which was true. I had lots of stuff to do. I can't do that. But then this lady, she was so smart. She totally outwitted me. I admit defeat. Because she said, I'll write them. And when she wrote the first 3 or 4 draft stories, they were terrible. They were so bad, which I think she did on purpose. So I thought, I'd better write these myself. And it wasn't as hard as I thought. Because what I was doing, I was having one of these, I think, quiet retreats by myself for 2 weeks. And so I decided just to have 1 hour every afternoon, just to write down some of these stories. Just 1 hour, 15 days. And when I finished that 15-day retreat, I had over half the stories written out by hand. And I have the manuscript, it really belongs to Hugh. But because he bought it at an auction for raising money for the nuns' monastery at the time. But I look at that and it's beautiful. That handwriting is almost without error. And it's just done on paper with a pen. It's not sort of on a computer, and you wouldn't believe it. Sometimes I look at that, did I do that? And those are the first almost 60% of the book. It was so easy when your mind is relaxed and peaceful and kind. Just you flow, and you let all the words come out just without interfering with them. And I took a break, and another few days, finished the whole book, all written out by hand. And having the manuscript, just first draft of the manuscript, not a first draft and a second and a third draft, just one draft. Somebody typed it out for me. And then on a computer, they had a computer and could use it. I can't use a computer that much. I try, but I'm not that good. But nevertheless, even though I'm just not that good with computers. This is one of our IT guys. Oh, was he? How good am I at a computer? You're all right. I said because he's nice. Well, not that good. But anyway, nevertheless, even though you're no good at a computer, I can still give the keynote address at the World Computer Conference in Daejeon, South Korea in 2019. There's stupid things in this world. This was a World Computer Conference in South Korea. And all these, I remember this, one of the guys I was talking to, he was the European Union head of cybersecurity. Had one of these ministers, I think, from Sydney, we're chatting to, and all these other, I mean, this is really sort of high power computer experts, other than me. Honest, I'm being honest to myself. But you can go there, you can still perform, simply because you just know how to get that emotional twist on what you're talking about and what you're teaching. Just like writing a book. So easy. When you know how to be peaceful and get the emotional quality, just let it happen. Who knows, good, bad, who knows? But of course, the end of that story was fellow Ron's story. Actually, his ashes is just behind here, just in the garden. But he just typed it out for me. And he, going to Melbourne, he gave me the book, the little CD. Remember those old CDs? Or computer discs, I think they were called. Gave it to me just an hour or two before I got on the plane. Because I thought, I'm going to Melbourne. There's lots of publishing houses in Melbourne. How do you actually get a book published anyway? I never had a book published before, so I thought, well, somebody in Melbourne I'll find. And this is absolutely true story, no exaggeration. Off the plane, straight to Melbourne University to give my first talk. And after the talk was finished, this woman came up to me and said, "Oh, it was a wonderful talk, Ajahn Brahm. I work in the publishing industry. If ever you have something you want published, please let me see it." Here we go. I said, "Here you go." She couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was just so easy. Not like, you know, that, what's her name, Harry Potter author. Apparently she had, what was her name again? Oh, J.K. Rowling away. But yes, apparently she had to put a book for quite a few publishers before she got that published. Me, I just published straight away. And this is another true story, which is on the same subject. It was a very successful book, that. It was published in so many countries. I remember seeing one edition which was published in Indonesian, in Bahasa, Indonesian. Any Indonesians here this evening? Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. That's a beautiful thing with Indonesia. They say Namo Buddhaya, like homage to the Buddha. And that's a little greeting they say to one another. And started off in Indonesia, it's a beautiful thing. But anyway, so in Indonesia, and in the Gramedia bookshop in Jakarta, I remember going there, they said, "Oh, your book's on sale here. Oh, let's see how it's going." And they had, they do have in bookshops, 10 bestsellers. Number 2 was Harry Potter. Number 1 was... It's true. my first book. I got a photo of it somewhere. They didn't just change the order just to take the photograph, then change it back again. It was true. I don't know if you've seen that, Indonesians here in that bookshop. They even had a cardboard cutout of me for advertising. I didn't believe that, because you go in a bookshop, you're just looking for books, and there's me in the... What am I doing over there? It was a cardboard replica of me. Oh, life is very weird. But anyway, that all came about simply because, you know how to just relax, make peace, and see what happens, without wanting any success, without wanting anything, without judging. and just see what happens. And life is just so incredibly surprising. So of course, that's what we try and replicate here. So whenever you're given these moments of peace and given respect and kindness, how does it affect you? How it affected that building surveyor from Serpentine, Shire. He said, just your car park was all I needed, just to feel that energy. And saying this over in Thailand when I used to live in there. It's one of these wonderful stories somebody from here told me. They went to one of those big temples in Bangkok. And as they went into the big temple to, I don't know what they were doing, to do some meditation or chanting or whatever, then they did actually see this woman, young woman, she was sitting on a bench outside the temple, crying her eyes out, sobbing. And this was an Australian man, and he didn't know what the right cultural appropriate thing to do was. So he felt a lot of compassion for this girl crying her eyes out, but he went into the temple anyway because didn't want to upset her or do the wrong cultural thing. But then when he came out of the temple about half an hour later, she was still sitting there, but she was not crying so much anymore. She was actually just dabbing her eyes. He'd got over the worst of it. But he still thought he could be of service, so he went up to her and asked her, is there anything I can do? Anything wrong? What can I do to help you? She said, oh, it's okay now. He said, well, if you don't mind me asking, why were you sitting there sobbing so much? And she said, oh, it's because I lost my car keys. I remember where I put them now, so it's okay. Now for that, to me that was a beautiful story. If you lost your car keys and there's no RAC in Thailand or whatever, come to the temple, sit down here, have a good cry, and then afterwards you might remember where you put them. All people need is a bit of peace and silence and acceptance, instead of people asking you and putting you in more embarrassing situations. So that little bit of giving kindness, compassion to others, then encourages you to give that same compassion and kindness to yourself. None of you are perfect. You all make mistakes. Big mistakes, small mistakes. We all do wrong things sometimes, and most of those times, it's not that we're bad people, we just sometimes make silly mistakes in life. And when you do, like, I'm saying this because, I don't mind saying this, a woman came up today, and I think many of you women here can probably relate to this, that a long time ago, quite a few years ago, she had an abortion, and she still hasn't forgiven herself for it. And I don't know why that women who have had an abortion, for whatever reason, aren't given compassion and kindness. I did a little forgiveness ceremony with her, just so she could forgive herself. The reason was she just basically, she already had a family and she couldn't just look after another kid, just too many. I think many of you, I can see you've gone quiet now, you're not laughing or smiling anymore. Many of the women here have probably had those experiences, and what can I do? It's between us, they say, a rock and a hard place. And whatever decision is made, first of all, I'm a man, I'm a monk. What would I know what it feels like? But very often it's men like me, religious leaders, who pronounce on whether it's good or bad. Unless I've got no right to do that, and I will not do that. Instead, our job is to give kindness, compassion. Whatever you did, if it was a mistake, that's what we learn. We learn to be a bit more careful next time, or maybe don't make the same mistakes again. But a lot of times you can't really judge it at all. For those of you who are concerned about that, one of the arguments which I did leave the lady with was the story of a Thai couple who come here, just making sure they're not here. They may be embarrassed if I tell you this, but no, they're not here. But when this lady, years ago now, when she got pregnant, this is a normal pregnancy, and just 5 days before birth, had an ultrasound, and when the birth happened, stillborn. A tragedy, because they had everything expected for a baby, and they were just so excited, the first kid they were going to have. And apparently, the doctors had found out it had actually turned in the womb and had cut off the blood supply in the umbilical cord. And she didn't know that. 5 days before ultrasound, everything was going perfectly. It was stillborn. So I did the funeral for them, just up Wanneroo Road here. And I always remember that funeral, because the baby was fully formed. They gave it a name, Charlie. I better not say too much. Charlie was his name. And they dressed it up, and they had the family photograph. And I was in the family photograph, and Charlie was as well. And I was almost like honoured to be included in that family photograph at the birth of Charlie, who died at birth. But then, what I didn't see them doing, I know it's common in Thailand to do this, but what I didn't see, they took a pen, a biro pen, when no one was watching, and on the heel of Charlie, they drew a line with a ballpoint pen, just a line. And then, of course, the baby was cremated. She was a healthy woman. So, a few months later, she became pregnant again. When she became pregnant again, this time the doctors really gave her VIP treatment, because they didn't want a tragedy to happen again. She's a healthy woman. She gave birth, this time, to a girl. And that girl has a birthmark on its heel, a line, exactly where they'd written a line on there. And they all knew it was Charlie came back. Didn't quite make it first time, but had another go. Next time, got through. And they told me that story, and of course, you probably, would be interested. How did the new kid turn out? First of all, it was a girl, and it was called Annie. And I was watching it. It used to be, like many kids, they play here, running around. The kids are offering food to the monks or the nuns, and the kid is running around all over the place. But this Annie would always run with the boys and would try and beat up the girls. He was really a tomboy, little Annie. And of course you understand why. He was a boy before. But anyway, there was a wonderful story that when people have these emotional problems, that if you give a bigger picture, the kid didn't get there the first time, we'll have another go. And a lot of times, I've seen this, if they don't make it the first time, they get an upgrade. Come and go. Is that an upgrade? But anyway, that was the story of Charlie and Annie. So, but sometimes, why is it that people just aren't kind to each other, kind to themselves, and forgive themselves these things? So it took a lot, but eventually I think I got through to give forgiveness to yourself. It's a very difficult decision to make, and I will never know what it's like. What I do know, it's a wonderful thing that you can just forgive, learn, let go, and go forward. And for goodness sake, don't feel sad about something which happened such a long time ago. So little by little we learn how to be kind to ourselves, treat ourselves with compassion, with forgiveness. Now if you do things like that, you soon become very healthy. So much sickness is because of lack of self-compassion, lack of kindness to ourselves. something which I've seen again and again and again, which is sometimes, why do you do this? It's just, we always think we don't deserve happiness. When wonderful things happen to you in life, we tend to destroy them. Why? And the classic story was of this wonderful nun many years ago who was staying at Bodhinyana Monastery. I think it was during a rains retreat. And I can't remember exactly because it's a long time ago. And she was a brilliant nun, a great meditator. And because I was like giving her interviews, and when her meditation got really hot, that was almost every day. She was coming up to me, seeing incredible nimittas, these beautiful lights which you see in your mind. It's really beautiful. And you're so close to the deepest of meditations. She was so close, but she couldn't get through to the next brilliant stage, the jhanas. Really just going for it. And I was giving every piece of advice which I could. And it came to the point, I don't know why. I can't understand why it is you're not just going to this beautiful, blissful, freeing states of mind. And then in one interview she told me, and it's almost like felt like I should burst out crying. She said her major problem was she thought she didn't deserve such happiness. And at that, I felt so sad, so disappointed. So why is it that you have these beautiful opportunities, you don't grab them and take them? They're there for you, and it's such a wonderful thing to do. Somehow or other we think we're not up to it, we don't deserve it, we shouldn't have it, it's not right, we don't have it, we're not good enough. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to get into trouble for this again. I'll give this over to one of the secretaries. That sometimes when people don't feel they deserve success, I give them a certificate, the happiness certificate. If you respect me, you come here a lot, you take me as your teacher or someone you look up to, at least you look up to my wisdom. Maybe don't look up to my sense of humour, because some of the jokes are very bad. Should I try this joke? I promise I'll try this joke this evening. I told a few of you earlier. Here we go. I'm going to get into trouble now. Why did the piece of chewing gum cross the road? Why did the piece of chewing gum... People are already just shaking their heads in disbelief I'm saying this. Why did a piece of chewing gum cross the road? And because it was stuck to the foot of a chicken. Because I always ask, why did the chicken cross the road? So, the chewing gum... Okay. I'm sorry about that. Actually, I'm not sorry. I forgive myself every time I tell a joke. But anyhow, so when we can sort of forgive ourselves, it opens up this huge area of where we can be happy and be healthy and be successful. Sometimes that is how simple it is. There's something inside of you, I'm not good enough, I did this and I shouldn't have done that, and you feel so guilty. How long do you have to feel guilty for? Even in jail, they only put you in jail for 5 years or 6 years or something. And sometimes people keep their guilt for much longer than that. And of course you don't even need to go to jail at all. In Buddhism, this is one thing which I often say on a Friday night, we don't have guilt. That thing doesn't exist in Buddhism, as I know it. You do something wrong, welcome to the club. Okay, what have I done wrong? These are old stories of things which I've done wrong, but this is one of the funny ones. And I told it the other day, and people have forgot, I told it probably last year sometime. But this was the story when I got called to go to Royal Perth Hospital. by a family of this Chinese fellow who was passing away. And they said, you've got to come quick, he's really, really sick, he's in the ICU, maybe only an hour or two to go. So I rushed, into the hospital. So got up to the ICU, saw the family, just said, hello, I've arrived, I'll see what I can do. Went into the ICU, stood by the bed of this guy who was totally unconscious, obviously, close to death, and I really gave full power chanting to. Now, this doesn't always work, but no, that day I was really on song. That's just like people playing football or tennis. Sometimes you can just crack that ball, it always goes in. And this is one of those days I just really on my game. And I chanted and chanted and chanted. He came out of coma. It was like a miracle. And it doesn't always happen, very rarely actually, but this time it actually did. Came out of coma and the doctors were amazed he was going to survive now. And so when I went out feeling all good about myself, and then went out to see the family and said, oh, well, look, I really did it. He came out of the coma, he's probably going to live now. And that's when the SHIT hit the fan. Because these were the family who'd come from Taiwan, Hong Kong, mainland China. They stopped all their work. They got these expensive flights, a moment's notice. They came over to be with their patriarch for the last few hours of his life. They had already arranged a funeral service. Now they're going to have to stop it and cancel it, and they say, you have cost us a lot of money, Ajahn Brahm. He's going to die again, maybe another 6 months, he comes back again and dies properly, but this time, no, so they were not happy with me at all. All that way stopping what I'd got no donations to the monastery, not even for the cost of the petrol in the car. I never heard from them again. So that was my mistake. But what do you do when you make mistakes like that? You learn. So now when I go to the hospital, I ask, first of all, what type of chanting do you want? Get better chant or die peaceful chant. They're different. So I make mistakes and I tell everybody, because it's good fun, isn't it? Sometimes you make mistakes like that. And sometimes you can't make up these stories, they're totally true, but they're good fun as well. Maybe for me, not for that Chinese family, but you can't please everybody. So anyway, by the time you laugh at your mistakes, you learn from them. You never feel you say, oh, I'm a terrible monk. I should not have done that, I should have done something better. Because if you do, you lose, sometimes you lose your confidence, you lose your ability just to go in there and just give a talk and give some chanting, connect with people. And when I'm not afraid of me, then I'm not afraid of you. If you're afraid of yourself, something inside of you just, don't want them to find out this, of course, then you're sort of too protective, you're not open enough to show real kindness and compassion to others. But most importantly, it's great to show kindness and compassion to yourself. Because there's a lot of times that I sometimes wonder, just, you come here on a Friday evening, many of you have finished work early, you haven't probably had your dinner yet, so many things you have to do in life. Why do you come here? Is it just for the talk? No, quite honestly, this evening, what new stuff have I taught? Not much. But that's not the point, is it? There's something else which is taught. The kindness, the joy, and encouraging each one of you to also just have that kindness to yourself. And to realize Doesn't matter what your mother and father told you. Doesn't matter what your teachers at school told you. Doesn't matter what your partner tells you, what your bosses tell you. You know what you're like, and you're a pretty good human being. So celebrate your goodness. Let yourself know that. And never ever think you don't deserve happiness. You deserve everything. You know that. And I said, for many people, I started making this happiness certificate for them. Just to reinforce the idea that this certificate is on BSWA, no, it's on Bodhinyana Monastery letterhead, I think. This certificate grants the holder the right to be happy for any reason or no reason at all for the rest of their life and the next lives as well. Signed, Ajahn Brahm. No, I didn't sign it. I said by order of. To make it a bit more certain. It does. Some of those actually worked. You gave it to people and they said, yeah. The problem was when I first did that, it was actually at a retreat I was giving I suppose, in Frankfurt. Because sometimes people think they don't deserve the happiness. They're getting so close, but... So I gave one of these certificates out. And this fellow, he put it on the internet. And then the next day said, can you please do another 50? And so many were needed. So look, you don't need a certificate to grant yourself. You deserve happiness, all the happiness you want in the world. And that's of great benefit for you, for your parents, for your teachers, for everybody in this world. What a wonderful thing it is if all of you were constantly happy like I'm seeing you smiling at me now. Why not? Thank you for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Those three sadhus are the way we end Dhamma talks or meditation retreats when I'm around. So shall we try it again with a bit more oomph? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Why not? Okay, very good. Excellent. So what do we have here? Okay, some questions. From Germany, no, don't like that one. Germany, no, don't like that one. No, of course I do. Okay, my daughter is special. She has Asperger autism. How can I support her without clinging too much? Do you have advice? Just remember it's whenever you have a relationship, any sort of interesting relationship, then of course it's never about me, it's never about, in this case, your daughter. And I'm sure you have other children as well, have a husband, other people. It's all about us. So don't look at it as one person or two person or three, it's the whole family. So when you just change, it's all about us. So how can we be happier? We can have a bit more energy. We can have a wonderful time. And sometimes the thing with a person who's Asperger, autistic, Down syndrome, because Downs is something which I saw when I was very young and seeing it even now, wonderful just how our community has opened up and accepted people who are a little bit different. And of course also schizophrenia. Again, there's something about that. I'm not going to call it disease, difference. Please, just see the beauty in that. Sometimes hard to do. But there was one article which I read, which I was well done, was where instead of denying the reality of the experience of those in the middle of a very tough schizophrenic experience, you acknowledge it. That's what they're seeing, experiencing. Fine. Because imagine what you think you see, what you think you believe is rejected and challenged by other people who you care about and love. That doesn't really start on the right foot at all. But if you can just acknowledge it, and how can we deal with it? It's about us, different person's view upon existence. That changes things. That's respect, rather than I'm superior, I'm right, you're not. So when it's about us, with respect and kindness and love, it's amazing just how different responses we have to what some people find intolerable. Because you don't watch I don't watch the TV, but every now and again somebody sends me something on the internet. And there was this one little scene. There was this one American guy. He had a son who was autistic, and this man would go on these, was it Iron Man runs and stuff. And he'd always take his son with him. He was running like 30 kilometers, through the rain or up mountains and stuff. His son would be on his back. He'd carry him everywhere. And you could see the look on the son's face, just the joy of when he finished the race. It was inspiring. That son was just so close to his dad. And his dad was doing things, and you could see just the joy on that son's face. He was autistic. Brilliant. So what we're doing here is expanding what we can sort of encompass and embrace and accept and be with. So how you support her? By supporting us, the whole family. When I learned meditating, this is another one from Germany, I was introduced to using a mala. Now I feel much better with your teachings, but I'm curious, why only Theravada seems not to use mala, those little beads? One thing, because they make so much noise. Tick, 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 tick. It'd be great if they had silent beads. But sometimes people in Theravada use beads. But also we want to go deeper meditation, so we close our eyes so we can't hear sounds. We can't hear anything at all, so the sound turns off. That's really cool, because then the mind has more chance to grow. But anyway, we never use the mala at all, mala beads. And for Melbourne, in many cultures, Buddhists go to temples to pray, make promises, or swear to Buddha. But sometimes they can't keep their promises. Is this wrong? What do I think? I heard this when I was invited to a talk at one of the Sai Baba groups here in Perth. And there's this rich guy went into the temple, this is in India. When he came out, there was a beggar. And the beggar asked him for a donation. And the rich man said, what are you asking for a donation? Well, you should go and get a job. You shouldn't go around begging for people. And then the beggar said, well, what did you just go into the temple for? Even though you're a rich man, you went to beg for something or other. And the beggar said, the rich man said, actually, you're quite right. Here's a donation. Isn't that the case? If people go to a temple to pray, don't call it praying, come for begging. Begging from a god or from a temple, or begging from a monk. Monk, please, 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 may I win the lottery tomorrow? You're begging from me again. You call me a beggar. But what we do, we just always give some encouragement. Kids doing exams, just people just please, Ajahn Brahm, please, please, is this a girl for me? Is this a girl for me? Please, I'm sure she is. Please, Ajahn Brahm, please, please, please. Can you do some chanting so she'll fall in love with me? I say no. Don't inflict suffering. No, I don't say that. Of course I give some. I can't give suffering to too many people. No, okay, well maybe I can, if that's what you want. Sometimes what the blessings do when you go to a temple, it just encourages you. It gives you some confidence. So you can go in there and just see what happens. So, and I think, when did I tell this to the monks or something? Yeah, monks on Wednesday night. It's just the same as when you shout for your football team. Come on, the Dockers, come on, the West Coast Eagles, come on. When you actually shout for your team, and you've got lots of supporters, of course the team do much better. You're encouraging them, so that's what I do to you. When I do the chanting, the blessings, I'm just shouting it. Come on, you can do it, yay, come on, yes, 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 yes. That's what I did for that guy in the ICU. Come on, you can come out of coma, come on, yeah, 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 you can, yes, yes, yeah, you did it. Basically, that's what we do. And from the United Arab Emirates, Tirani. Hello, Ajahn Brahm. Is everything that happens in our life meant to be, or is there such a thing as free will? Why did you write that question? Was it meant to be, or was it your free will? If it is free will, keep it secret. Because anything which is free, which is valuable, the government will tax. I always thought about that. I think I made a little story about that, about free speech. Do you believe in free speech? I don't. I think all speech should be taxed. They would have a quieter world. Of course, you're allowed a certain amount of speech, but after you've exceeded your speech limit for the week, anything else gets taxed. It raised a lot of money and a lot of time from rich people who talk too much. And of course me, but I'm accepted because I'm giving a talk. And it would also mean that we'll have a much more peaceful world. Okay, so that's... Any questions from the floor here? No. Where's Eddie? Oh, Eddie, okay. Yeah, okay, I know we've got another question. Oh. From Bill.
Dennis forgot a couple of announcements, so I'll make them now.
Okay.
Noble Eightfold Path Workshop Series at Dhammaloka on the 20th of February to the 27th of March. 6 Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Registration is open for those wishing to attend in person. There is no registration required for those who join online. Please see the website and notice board for details. Next one is the BSWA Sunday Dhamma School has availability for students' placements for ages 3 to 17. Please contact admin@bswa.org. The term will commence Sunday the 7th of February. And from Anusha, Ru will be holding a free concert here at Dhammaloka on 13th of February at 6 p.m. See notice board for more details.
Okay, so that's Anusha's doing a concert here. Who's performing? Are you performing, Bill? Sorry? The young musicians. Okay. Oh, very good. Are they any good? That's on the 7th. And 7th, what's that? 7th? 13th of February. 13th of February? What day is that? And that's the evening before Valentine's Day. Okay. That reminds me of one of these stories. I was giving this talk over in Singapore. And there's many people in Singapore, and there's lots of young people at my talks. Lots of people, were single. And lots of, boys, lots of girls were just, they'd love to have a partner, but they're too scared to invite people. So we decided to just, let's see who's single, who's married, who's what. So the MC said, please put your hand up if you're available, if you're single. And of course, and I'm an honest man, I said, well, I'm single. And then, put your hand down, Ajahn Brahm, put your hand down. I guess that's good fun anyway. Very good. So anyone who wants more details of those announcements, they'll be online. They'll probably be posted here as well. Really recommend Ajahn Brahmani's Eightfold Path. So that's going to be 6 or 7 Saturdays. beautiful sort of teachings most of the day. Okay, so let's pay respects to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then so I don't get fined for speaking too much. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Very good. Hey. Oh, no, it's good.